When the Apache traded farms for a son, he never expected to fall for the widow. The sun hung low in the Arizona sky, casting an eerie orange glow over the dusty landscape. Murmurs spread through the small town of Gold Creek like wildfire, whispers of a deal so bizarre it sent shivers down the spines of those willing to speak. An Apache chief, known for his iron grip on the land, had made a trade that was talked about behind closed doors, the kind that made you question sanity. He traded a sprawling farm, rich with the bounty of the earth, for a son, a boy lost to the chaos of life. But this wasn't just any boy, and that wasn't just any woman. It was Jack's widow, now the target of unspoken desires and hidden motives, living out an enigmatic saga that drew everyone's attention. In a town where everyone knew each other's name, the arrival of the chief's envoy turned heads and clenched fists. The Apache man walked with a grave confidence that matched the thunderclouds brewing overhead. As he approached the widow, her delicate silhouette against the swirling dust, locals gasped in disbelief. How could a woman, once confined to sorrow and grief, suddenly become the focal point of such a twisted tale? Her mourning dress fluttered, frail yet resilient, as though she embodied both pain and hope. What secrets did she hold? What unspoken loyalty ran deeper than blood? Her haunted eyes held the weight of the world, and a new energy crackled in the air, thicker than dust and drenched in desperation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the town square transformed into an arena of speculation. Children were called inside, their giggles replaced by murmurs of caution from parents. Shadows lengthened, hearts raced, the entire crowd felt the tension seep into their bones. They leaned in closer, eyes wide with intrigue, ready to uncover the truth of what couldn't be said. There were stories of nights spent crying under the stars, of love lost, and of longing still lying in her chest like a sleeping beast. The nervous whispers grew louder, the gossip sharper, as folks wondered what the widow would do next. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The chief's penetrating gaze held steady on the widow, the weight of desire and destiny hanging in the balance. Doubt filled the air like smoke. Did she hold the power to ignite a tempest of change? With each heartbeat echoing the town's anxiety, the fold of her lips twisted slightly. A quiet defiance simmered beneath the surface. Could she rise from the ashes of her past? Or would the ghosts of grief swallow her whole? A sliver of hope danced in her eyes, even as the darkness loomed. The flicker of possibility hung tantalizingly in the air, leaving everyone to wonder, would she brave the storm, walk with the Apache into the unknown, or would she stay bound to her past, forever haunted by the choices she feared to make? The night wrapped Gold Creek in its velvety shroud, the stars twinkling like scattered diamonds across the deep indigo sky. The town that had been so alive with murmurings now lay drenched in an almost suffocating silence, punctuated only by the occasional rustling of leaves. But beneath that stillness, a storm brewed, unseen but palpable, the tension thick as the heavy air before a downpour. The widow, Clara, stood motionless, her heart racing like a wild stallion as the Apache chief drew nearer. She felt the weight of her grief clashing with the flicker of hope ignited by the presence of the man who held the power to change everything. What was she thinking? A widow, a woman frayed and fragile, considering a path that could either lead her to freedom or bind her to a fate she could barely comprehend. His eyes, darker than midnight, pierced through her uncertainty. Each step he took was calculated and steady, the strength radiating from him igniting the first spark of courage within her soul. Clara felt rooted to the spot, fear and fascination intertwining in her chest, reminding her of a time when she used to feel desirable, valued. Your sorrow is still a heavy blanket, the chief said, his voice deep and resonant, cutting through the silence like a knife through butter. But a new dawn waits if you are willing to embrace it. She looked up, startled by the depth of his gaze, feeling as though he saw far beyond her morning facade. His words hung in the air, a seductive promise wrapped in danger. "You know what I've traded for," he continued, his voice steady, yet laced with an urgency that sent shivers down her spine. "What I offer is not merely a place but a chance to reclaim what was lost." She swallowed hard, a lump forming in her throat. "And what of the boy?" "Loneliness has many faces, but love can change a boy's path," he replied, his expression shifting, softness emerging from a pool of intensity. "He needs a mother. You need a purpose." Clara felt her insides twist, the thought of mothering a boy she'd never met clashing with the memory of her own child, taken too soon. The pang of loss surged, bittersweet and sharp. "You think I could replace?" "No one can replace what has been lost," he interrupted gently but firmly. "But together, perhaps you could find something new. A journey forged in the ashes of your grief." His words hung between them, each syllable a delicate thread weaving an invitation, a challenge. The long-suppressed yearning inside Clara burst forth, raw and unfiltered, battling the demons of her past. Around them, the whispers of the townspeople began to surface once more. Their eyes, their fears and hopes were all trained on her, waiting for her decision. But it wasn't just her own desires at stake. There was a deeper narrative in the balance. The air crackled with possibility as Clara teetered on the edge of a precipice. "What if I choose this path?" she murmured, more to herself than to him. "You won't be alone," he reassured her, stepping closer, the world around them growing faint. Before she could reply, a loud crash resounded from the edge of the town, shattering the moment. The townsfolk gasped in shock, and Clara's heart raced anew. Had fate intervened? "Stay here," the chief said, his voice low but intense. "I will return." He turned and vanished into the shadows, leaving her alone, flames of uncertainty igniting in her stomach. What awaited her in the darkness? In that split second, she understood that she had to make her choice, but would it bring freedom or devastation? The whisper of the crowd loomed behind her, anticipation brewing like the storm brewing overhead. As the tension mounted, Clara felt the pull of destiny, setting the stage for an unfolding chaos she couldn't yet fathom. The question resonated louder than ever: what would she risk for the chance at a new beginning? The night had only just begun, and the true story was still waiting to be told. Clara stood, breath hitched, as the echo of the crash faded into an ominous stillness. The townsfolk murmured anxiously behind her, shadows shifting with nervous energy. Heart pounding, she strained to catch a glimpse of the chief, her mind racing. What could have caused that noise? A child screamed in the distance, piercing the quiet like a dagger. The sound sent chills up her spine, memories of loss surging unbidden. She felt her palms sweat, fear wrapping around her heart like a vice. What danger lurked in the night? Before she could second-guess herself, Clara turned toward the sound, her instincts propelling her forward. Each step felt monumental, as her knees trembled slightly. The weight of the town's eyes was still on her, suspicion and horror mingling in their secret glances. "Clara, wait!" someone shouted. It was Mr. McKinney, the local merchant, a figure of authority, but also a deeply rooted symbol of the town's judgment. "You shouldn't go out there alone. It's not safe." But Clara's resolve solidified. She had felt the chief's power, the promise he offered a chance to reclaim the pieces of herself scattered along the years of grief. And if danger awaited her, she would face it. After all, wasn't her whole life spent shackled by sorrow? "Stay here if you like." Clara shot back, her voice sharper than she intended. Fear and determination danced within her. The townspeople gasped collectively, taken aback by her defiance. She walked faster now, the dark air filled with a sense of urgency. Clara darted down the alleyway leading to the town's edge. The light from the nearby lanterns flickered as gusts of wind sent shivers through the branches overhead. Shadows danced like phantoms, taunting her with their uncertainty. As she reached the source of the commotion, the scene stretched before her: an overturned wagon, wood splintered and cracked, lying like a fallen giant. But it wasn't the wreck that froze Clara in her tracks, it was the figure standing beside it, illuminated in the faint glow of a distant lantern. The Apache chief. His back was to her, muscles taut, every sense alert. He didn't seem injured, which was a relief, but the intensity of his stillness sent dread washing over her. Something was wrong. Clara hesitated, peering closer, a growing knot of anxiety twisting her stomach. Suddenly, the silence broke like glass as a rustling came from the trees nearby. Clara's pulse quickened. Was it an animal? Or the danger the chief had warned of? Stay back! He snapped, turning sharply, eyes ablaze with intensity. I told you to wait. A flash of movement darted through the foliage, a dark and disheveled figure, moving fast and low to the ground. Clara's breath caught. Fear and instinct collided, sending her heart racing. Who was it? Clara. The chief's voice held a grave note. Get behind me. But she didn't move. Instead, she stepped forward, her voice steady. No, let me help. In that moment of decision, Clara felt the weight of her choices crashing around her. Would she cower in the shadows of her past, or step boldly into the unknown? The figure drew closer, and just as Clara's heartbeat thundered in her ears, it stopped frozen in the underbrush. It was a boy, no older than 8, disheveled hair sticking up wildly, eyes wide with a mix of fear and desperation. Help me! He cried out, taking a shaky step forward, vulnerability radiating from him. Clara's heart soared with instinctive compassion. This was the boy, the one the chief had spoken of. But what chaos swirled around his arrival? The chief stepped forward, tension crackling like electricity, yet a flicker of hope ignited in Clara's chest. The boy needed saving. But would he come with her? Would he choose her as his mother? As the shadows stretched around them, Clara's resolve hardened. Would she risk everything for this child? The storm was not just brewing in the skies above but within Clara herself, making her question how far she was willing to go for love when the stakes were so high. Could this night foretell the beginning or the end of her fate? With determined resolve, she took a breath and stepped further into the unknown. The boy's eyes were pools of desperation, and Clara felt an overwhelming urge to protect him. Beneath the chaos, she sensed an unseen thread pulling her forward, binding her fate with his. Clara, step back. The chief urged again, casting an appraising look at the shadows. His body was tense, every muscle coiled tight like a spring ready to unfurl. We don't know what else is out there. The rustling in the bushes intensified, and Clara couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Goosebumps prickled down her arms as a faint whisper of wind slipped through the trees. It held the promise of danger. I'm not leaving him, she replied defiantly, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. The boy looked up at her, a flicker of hope crossing his face. Please, miss, they're coming for me. He pleaded, taking another tentative step forward. No. The chief's voice cut through the air, firm and unyielding. You don't understand. You don't know what kind of danger follows him. But Clara's heart had already made its choice. The boy needed her. I can help him, she insisted, each word a challenge to the storm brewing outside and within her. Before she could take another step, a dark shape burst from the trees, lunging forward with wild abandon. Clara instinctively flinched, her heart hammering against her ribs. But it wasn't a beast, it was another child, bloodied and bruised, skidding to a halt. Run! He rasped, terror glaring in his eyes. He looked slightly older, maybe 10 or 11, and there was something haunting in his gaze, a warning laced with urgency. They're coming for us all. Who? Who's coming? Clara stammered, gripping the first boy's shoulder for support. Hunters. The older boy spat, glancing back over his shoulder as though the danger was already upon them. They want the Apache boy. They think he is a curse. The chief shifted, his expression darkening. I feared this, he murmured, eyes narrowing as he surveyed the tree line. They might be close. Clara's breath hitched in her throat. The name Apache hung heavy in the air, twisting her stomach into knots. Was she now entangled in a conflict much larger than herself? The younger boy pressed closer to her, desperation written all over his face. Clara could feel his heartbeat racing beneath his skin, and it sent a wave of empathy crashing over her. "You need to take us home," he said, his voice small and fragile. "Home?" Clara echoed, glancing to the chief for guidance. What if there was no safe home left? Was her pain also theirs to share? Before she could answer, a harsh cry shattered the night, echoing through the trees like a gunshot. It was followed by the unmistakable sound of footfalls heavy and purposeful, encroaching upon them. "Run, Clara! Now!" The chief barked, his voice urgent as he stepped between her and the incoming danger. She felt paralyzed, torn between the desperation in the boy's eyes and the command that demanded her to flee. This wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a fight for something deeper, something she thought she had lost forever. Suddenly, the air crackled with tension as two shadowy figures emerged from the tree-line, cloaked in darkness. Clara's heart raced as she backed away slowly, instinctively shielding the boys. "Get away from them!" she shouted, the raw intensity of her fear shaping her words. The tallest figure laughed, a cruel sound that chilled her to the bone. "No one can protect them, least of all you." Clara's breath caught in her throat as recognition swept through her. Who were these figures, and what connection did they have to her past? The chief shifted closer, ready to defend, but Clara found herself stepping forward. The boys were counting on her. But did she have the strength to face whatever was coming? In that electric moment, she knew the depth of her choice. The night held more than just danger, it held the fate of lives entwined with her own. What awaited them in the dark? As Clara's fight-or-flight instincts surged, she gripped the boy's hands tighter, prepared to confront the specter of her life. Would she find the courage she needed? And in this decisive moment, she couldn't help but wonder, had she truly become more than just a survivor? The shadows shifted as the figures stepped closer, revealing themselves under the pale moonlight. Clara's heart raced, each beat echoing in her ears like a warning drum. They were familiar, yet terrifying faces she thought she'd never see again. The first, a woman with piercing green eyes, moved gracefully, almost effortlessly, through the darkness. Her long black hair flowed behind her, like a dark river cascading down a cliff. "Clara," the woman whispered, and the sound of her voice was like a death knell. Clara felt the knot in her stomach tighten. Memories surged, threatening to drown her echoes from a past she desperately wanted to forget. "Marisol," Clara breathed, filled with disbelief. She was the very embodiment of every nightmare Clara had tucked away. And beside her, the hulking figure of Manuel, the man who once shattered her world with betrayal. He surveyed the scene, a cruel smile taunting them. "Look who we have here," Manuel sneered, his voice dripping with malice. The little widow, playing the hero. Before Clara could process the onslaught of emotions, Manuel's focus turned to the boys. "Hand over the Apache. It's best for all of you." "No!" Clara shouted even as her mind raced. She felt small beneath his gaze, the weight of her past pressing down like a stone. "You can't take him." The younger boy clung to Clara, fear etched into his features. The older boy stepped forward bravely, trying to block her from view. "You don't know what you're dealing with." Marisol laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. "Oh, we know plenty, children. Your lineage makes you a valuable prize for our patrons." "Patrons?" Clara's stomach twisted. What kind of people would want a child for their own gain? The boy's future dangled precariously in the balance, and she felt the urgency burning within her. Suddenly, Clara remembered the stories, the legends, the tales of her family's old enemies, descendants of a lost tribe driven from their lands. What if they had come back to reclaim what they thought belonged to them? "What do you want with him?" she demanded, trying to buy time, to think of a plan. He is what you cannot have, Manuel said, stepping forward, the threat tangible in his presence. He is the key to our resurgence, and this land will be ours again. Clara's breath quickened, suffocating under the realization that the night was more than a battle for survival, it was a deeper fight, a chance to reclaim history. The boys were her responsibility now, and she would not let that legacy die with her. Clara, we have to run. The younger boy whispered, trembling beside her. Not yet, she whispered back, determination flaring within her. She couldn't let them see her break. Look for a way out. As the boys edged back, a sharp rustle came from her left. Clara's heart sank when she turned. The chief was gone, leaving her with these daunting shadows. She felt exposed, vulnerable, like a lone wolf separated from her pack. Just hand them over, Clara, Manuel urged, his voice low like the growl of a predator. You can't protect them. You've never been able to. A fire ignited deep inside her. You think my pain makes me weak, Manuel? You couldn't be more wrong. The breath between them thickened as the realization hit this was no longer just about survival. This was revenge. The ground shook as the weight of that revelation settled in stars aligned between the dark corners of their shared history and the fate of the young boys before her. Suddenly, a shrill voice cut through the night from the shadows. Stop! All heads turned. A new figure emerged, heart pounding in Clara's chest. Who were they? Clara's determination and dread collided. Allies or enemies? In that moment, hope could ignite new strength. But Clara couldn't shake the fear gnawing at her. What if this was a trap, another twist in the web of fate? What if it was too late to save anyone? The figure stepped into the light, revealing a tall man with wild, tousled hair and an unsteady stance. His clothes were torn, his forehead streaked with dirt, but it was his eyes that captured Clara's attention. They sparkled with a mix of desperation and determination. Clara! He shouted, and the weight of recognition hit her like a punch to the gut. This was not just anyone, it was Lucas, a childhood friend turned ally in darker times. Manuel's smirk faltered. You shouldn't be here, Lucas. You're a ghost in this reality. Sounds like you're the one who is haunting, Lucas shot back, stepping boldly toward Clara and the boys. I'm not letting you take them. Clara's heart surged with conflicting emotions. Here was a glimmer of hope, yet the gravity of the situation felt heavier than ever. Lucas, you don't know what you're up against, she whispered urgently. The red flags waving in her head shouted for caution, but she also felt that spark of rebellion flicker to life inside her. Trust me, he replied, his voice resolute. We can take them. Together. The boys looked back and forth between Clara and Lucas, tension thick in the air. The younger boy's grip on Clara's arm tightened. What do we do? He asked, his voice quivering. But before Clara could gather her thoughts, Marisol moved like a whisper through the dark. Enough of this, she hissed. We've come too far to be thwarted by a band of fools. Hand over the Apache. There's no shame in survival. A chill crept down Clara's spine. You think this is about shame? She cried. This is about fighting for what is ours. With that declaration, the ground beneath her transformed. No longer was she just a widow naive to the dangers of the world. She was a force, fueled by the urgent need to protect these boys and reclaim her family's name. If you really want him, you'll have to go through me, Clara dared, every fiber of her being aflame with defiance. Manuel stepped forward, fury crackling in his eyes. What makes you think you can stand against us? We are warriors, Clara. We've always been warriors. Maybe that's the problem, Lucas interjected, moving to position himself protectively beside Clara. You've forgotten what it means to be human. You're nothing but monsters in your own minds. A murmur rippled through the shadows, disbelief from Marisol's followers. Clara seized the moment, sensing the tide might be changing in their favor. We won't let you use us. Not anymore. The air grew electric, thick with the taste of confrontation. Clara felt the boys edge closer to her. They were ready to fight, willing to follow her into this storm of chaos. Anxiety clawed at her throat, but she pushed it aside. Stay behind me. Clara shouted, eyes locked on Manuel. He appeared less like a threat and more like a cornered animal, primal instincts threatened as rebellion surged. The first real spark of fear flickered in his eyes, and Clara leaned into it. You think you can take a mother's love? You think that will ever fail? A gunshot rang out. The world seemed to shatter in an instant, scattering her thoughts like fallen leaves in the wind. No one seemed to move. Clara's heart pounded, time freezing as she absorbed the chaos. Clara! Lucas yelled, but the world blurred around her. Her heart dropped when she felt the warmth of something trickling down her arm. The realization hit her like a freight train. Get down! She screamed, urgency coursing through her as she pushed the boys to safety, but it was too late. The weave of their fates was already tangled. In that moment of chaos, they were left with unasked questions: who fired the shot? What would become of the Apache? And was there still hope to navigate this darkened night? As the tension curled like smoke around them, Clara knew one thing for sure: this was just the beginning. But would they all survive what lay ahead? Clara gasped, her eyes darting around for a clue as the world snapped back into focus. Blood pulsed under her fingers, slick and warm as she pressed her palm against her arm. A sharp pain pierced through the fog of confusion, reminding her of the danger still looming. Clara, you need to stay with us. Lucas's voice cut through her panic, sharp and urgent. She barely caught a glimpse of his face, taut with fear and fierce determination. The boys whimpered behind her, a low sound of terror that twisted her heart. Marisol stepped closer, fueled by desperation. Get up, Clara. You may have rallied your little army, but they're not enough to save you. Her laughter was jagged, a sound that grated against the air, a taunt that sought to gnaw at Clara's spirit. Shut up. Clara's voice came out, half a strangled shout, half a plea. She was not going to let Marisol's venom steal her resolve. Clara, the bleeding. Lucas urged, reaching for her arm. She resisted instinctively, not wanting to expose him to the same fate. I can't bleed out now, Lucas. We're not done, she whispered fiercely, her breath hitching as she choked back the panic gnawing at her throat. That's the spirit. He smiled, but his eyes were clouded with worry. Tension thickened like smoke as the standoff pressed on, and Clara's senses honed in on every flicker of movement. Manuel's followers were shifting uneasily, murmurs bouncing like hot coals between them. They seemed less certain now, their loyalty questioned against the backdrop of the gunshot. Clara, what's the plan? One of the boys whispered, eyes wide with confusion. His small hand trembled against her back, seeking comfort, seeking strength. There is no plan, she replied, adrenaline pumping through her veins. This is about survival. Yours and mine. Without warning, a distant shout broke through the tension. A voice, deep and commanding, echoed across the clearing shrouded in darkness. Stop this madness. The sound startled everyone, a jolt that knocked Manuel's cocky mask off. The shadows shifted, a looming figure approaching from the tree lean, tall and broad. Clara's heart raced. Was this another enemy? Who dares disrupt our fight? Manuel barked, momentarily forgetting Clara and the boys. Enough of this charade. We are not here to play games. The voice grew closer, revealing an imposing man dressed in black. He walked with purpose, eyes narrowing as he pieced together the chaos before him. Raúl, Lucas murmured, recognition dawning. The man took another step forward, his gaze sweeping over the scene. Step aside, Manuel. I'm giving you one chance to leave. What gives you the right? Manuel began, but the icy glare from Raúl cut him off. I'm done playing caretaker to your grudges. You're risking everything for a futile battle. Clara felt the weight of his words settle over her. Was there a way to turn this into a lifeline? Raoul! She cried out, desperation coloring her voice. We're not just pawns in their game. You know what they want. His eyes found hers, searching, measuring. Suddenly, a wail broke from the shadows. One of Marisol's followers, perhaps overwhelmed by the tension or surviving sheer terror, was now backing away, retreating into the darkness. Get him! Manuel shouted, rage igniting within him. In that moment, everything shattered once more. Clara moved instinctively, lunging forward as chaos erupted, a panic-fueled race to grab the boys. Run! She screamed, adrenaline blaring before she even understood the stakes. Her heart hammered in her chest as she pulled the boys into the tangles of trees, branches clawing at their skin, breaths quickening in the fray, but as they fled, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. With danger closing in, was there still time to make a stand, to reclaim what was stolen? As the shadows chased them deeper into the woods, Clara knew one thing: they were not just surviving. They were fighting back. But would they find salvation, or would they be hunted down? The trees were a blur, their branches like skeletal hands reaching out as Clara pushed the boys ahead, urgency forcing her legs to move faster than she thought they could. The shadows of pursuit loomed behind, the cries and thundering footsteps merging into a chaotic symphony of dread. Don't look back! She shouted, her voice sharper than she intended. Panic whirled in her chest, every scream felt like a reminder of how close they were to losing everything. The boys were her lifeline, but would they hold on long enough? They raced down a steep slope, breath burning in their lungs. Lucas kept glancing over his shoulder, fear cracking his resolve. Clara caught a glimpse of the turmoil behind them, Manuel's followers, faces twisted in rage, propelled by blind loyalty. Clara! Lucas pleaded, stumbling as he fought for balance. We can't keep this up. They're gaining on us. Keep running. She urged, feeling the beads of sweat gather at her brow. Her mind was a tempest, grappling with questions. Where were they headed? Was there anywhere to hide? Somewhere deeper in the woods, a sharp crack echoed, a gunshot splitting the night air. Clara's heart sank. Desperation surged through her, igniting a reckless determination. They had to make it to the edge of the woods where the small creek ran, a potential hiding place, a chance to lose their pursuers. Over here! She shouted, veering left, darting toward the sound of water cascading over rocks. The smell of damp earth drew her closer, but it also masked their chances of escape. Suddenly, she heard a rustle behind them. One of the boys, clearly overwhelmed, stumbled and fell. Clara turned, seeing Lucas reach back, but she was faster, a rush of adrenaline pushing her forward. Get him! She shouted, aiming her voice through the thickening fear. She hurried back, skidding to a halt beside the prone boy. Come on! We have to go! But as she grabbed his arm, a rough hand clamped down on her shoulder, yanking her back. Not so fast! Manuel's voice slithered through the night like smoke. Clara's instinct screamed. She twisted, kneeing him hard in the midsection, feeling the brief satisfaction of his gasp as he loosened his grip just enough. Run! She demanded again, shoving the boy back toward Lucas. The sound of pounding feet seemed to close in, the moment of hesitation cost Clara. She felt a sharp pain blossom in her side, and her body stumbled backward, smothered by the weight of darkness creeping in. Something hard pressed against her, Manuel's sneer, visceral and triumphant. Game over, Clara, he taunted, brushing away the leaves as if he could wipe away her resistance. But she wasn't ready to give in. Not yet. The shrillness of the boys crying out for her spurred her onward. No. Her voice surged through the pain, raw and desperate. In that split second, Raoul emerged like a shadow from behind a tree, his gaze fierce as he lunged forward, tackling Manuel, the two men crashing to the ground in a flurry of limbs. Clara hesitated, like a deer caught in the headlights, torn between staying or fleeing. Clara, go! Raoul called out, his voice laced with urgency. The command shattered her paralysis. She turned, her body screaming in protest, lunging toward the boys, who were now huddled, eyes wide with dread. This way. They barreled down the remaining slope toward the tiny creek, its gurgling water a siren's song of potential refuge. But as they plunged past the underbrush, Clara dared to look back, her heart constricting. Raoul had Manuel pinned momentarily, but shadows were closing in. No. She whispered. Ahead, flickers of movement intertwined with the trees and then, silence fell. It was a tense, loaded pause. Clara could feel it thrumming beneath her skin. Something was coming, something she couldn't yet see. With no time left for fear, she led the boys into the embrace of the water. They splashed forward, the night wrapping around them like a blanket. But Clara couldn't shake the gnawing feeling that they hadn't escaped. Not yet. As raindrops began to fall, mingling with their breaths, Clara's resolve fortified like steel. They would not be downed easily, but what awaited them in the darkness, veiled by trees and secrets, the shadows seemed to breathe, a pulse lurking just out of sight. And Clara felt it, that edge of danger drawing near once more. Tender droplets of rain danced on the surface of the creek, displacing the stillness, and with each ripple, Clara felt the weight of vulnerability. Vulnerable yet fierce. She pressed on, urgency coursing through her veins like wildfire. Stay close. She whispered fiercely. The boys nodded, eyes darting, haunted by the looming shadows behind them. They kept their voices low, a gust of fear choking any sound that dared to rise. As they stumbled into the chilly water, Clara felt the slick stones beneath her feet. They could be visible from the bank, sitting ducks in a stormy night. The thought made her skin prickle. She glanced around, searching the shadows, her heart hammering against her ribs. The rhythmic patter of the rain masked their hurried breaths, but it could only drown out the noise for so long. Clara Lucas breathed, uncertainty painted across his young face. What do we do now? Her heart twisted at the weight of his question. We find a place to hide, she said, steeling her voice. If we can get upstream, we might shake them off. They waded deeper, the water chilling them to the bone. Clara caught a glimpse of movement on the shoreline, a figure moving with intent, slicing through the underbrush. Her stomach dropped. It had to be Manuel, or worse, one of his loyalists, sniffing the air for any sign of them. Over here. She gestured, leading her group upstream, where the thick bush lined the bank. They ducked down, pressing close to the muddy earth, camouflaged by nightfall. The boys trembled, the uncertainty vibrating through them. She wanted to reassure them, to tell them they were safe, but her gut told a different story. Each moment felt like a countdown, her instincts pricking against the back of her neck. Look! Lucas whispered, pointing his finger shakily as the shadow on shore grew nearer, occasionally illuminated by flashes of lightning. Clara squinted, her breath catching. It was Manuel, standing at the edge of the creek, eyes scanning the darkness, a predator poised to strike. The boys held their breath, fear hanging heavy in the wet air. The flickering light revealed the glinting barrel of a gun slung across his shoulder. Together, Clara said softly, gripping the boys' shoulders. They huddled closer, an unspoken pact binding them in the face of danger. But in that moment, as Manuel's silhouette flickered like a ghost, the fragile hope of evade slipped swiftly through her fingers. Through heavy rain, more figures emerged behind Manuel, shadows hushed yet relentless, moving like hunting wolves. Clara watched, dread tightening her throat. What do we do? Lucas murmured, barely audible. Clara swallowed hard, her heart waging war between instinct and pragmatism. With each passing second, she felt the distance from safety slip away. They had no weapon, no plan, just their fragile lives hanging on by a thread. From the corner of her eye, a flash of silver caught her attention, a jagged piece of metal gleaming beneath the water, half buried in muck. Her heart beat faster as inspiration struck. We have to distract them just long enough to escape. She pointed to the jagged metal, and Lucas nodded with a flicker of understanding. I can throw it. Yes. That's it. Clara whispered urgently. As the boys huddled in agreement, Clara felt a tremor run through her, a mix of fear and determination. Just then, Manuel barked orders at his companions, their silhouettes shifting dangerously. Now! Clara urged, her voice cracking. Lucas launched the metal shard with all his might into the brush upstream. The clinking sound echoed, an awakened beast stirring in the night. The shadows turned, Manuel's shout slicing through the tension, a cacophony of fury as they all darted toward the sound. Let us go! Clara shouted, grabbing the boys by the arms and plunging deeper into the water. Every rush of adrenaline pushed them forward. They scrambled along the bank, hearts racing as they dodged between trees, breaths mingling with the rain and fear. But then Clara stopped, mid-run, her heart plummeting. What if they crossed paths again? The looming irony swirled in her mind like a storm. This game of cat and mouse had another crude twist, one they didn't see coming. Ahead, the darkness thickened, drawing them into its veil, a labyrinth void of certainty and laced with danger. Would they continue to survive this fray, or would the shadows finally entwine around them? With the creek curling down to the hidden depths of the unknown, Clara could feel something darker lurking just beyond. The hunt was far from over, and time slipped through their fingers like water. Where would the creek lead them next? The air in the woods felt electric as Clara pushed herself and the boys deeper into the shadows. It was relentless, the whispers of pursuit trailing behind them like a dark cloud waiting to descend. Clara's heart raced, adrenaline pumping through her veins. This was not just a race for survival, it had morphed into a fierce battle for their futures. With each step, the thumping of her heart seemed to synchronize with the sound of raindrops splattering on the leaves above. The fear draped over her like a heavy cloak, yet she held her resolve tightly. The boys looked to her, their faces reflecting sheer terror but somehow finding a glimmer of trust in her gaze. Stay close, she urged again, her voice steady yet fierce, guiding them forward. After a few moments, they broke through the underbrush and stumbled into a small clearing illuminated by the pale light of the moon peeking through the clouds. Clara took a quick glance around, aware that they were at a crossroads. We can't stay here, she murmured, urgency thick in her tone. We need to keep moving. Suddenly, a distant shout sliced through the night. They went this way. Manuel's voice echoed, urgent and laden with rage. Clara's stomach sank. It was far from over. Run! She commanded, forcing her legs into motion again, dragging the boys along. They plunged into the nearby thicket that brushed against the creek, shadows enveloping them. The murmur of the water was calming, urging them to keep going, but Clara knew danger was nipping at their heels. As they crept silently along the water's edge, a flash of movement caught her eye, a low growl reverberated, causing her pulse to quicken. The last remnant of her doubt vanished. Just a little further, she whispered, pushing her legs harder against the slippery stones. The boys genuinely believed in her strength, and she would not fail them. But just as hope flickered back to life, a sharp rustle erupted to their right, and Clara turned on instinct. From the shadows emerged the chief, his form solid and sturdy, eyes dark with determination. Relief washed over her. Clara! He shouted, urgency propelling him forward. This way! Chief! She gasped, relief swelling in her chest. There was no time to waste. Kids at her side, she sprinted towards him, the knowledge of a formidable ally sending a rush of confidence through her. Just as they reached him, a gunshot rang out, echoing off the trees and colliding with Clara's chest in icy fear. Go! Get to the tree, lean! The chief yelled, his voice both commanding and soothing. They obeyed, unabashedly. Clara's heart thundered in her ears as they raced forward, knowing that every moment was a fleeting gamble, a game that was drawing nearer to its conclusion. Quickly, they traversed the dense underbrush with the chief at the forefront. Make for the cave! He yelled, his voice steady despite the chaos swirling around them. Clara and the boys clambered after him, darting past spiderwebs and gnarled roots, hearts pounding in sync. They raced into a hollow cave, the darkness swallowing them whole, and Clara felt the urgency of the moment weighing heavily upon her. "Stay behind me," she murmured as they huddled into the shadows of the cave's coolness. Once inside, there was a pregnant pause. The chaos of footsteps and shouting was far away now, but the threat lingered like a cold wind. "What now?" one of the boys whispered, clutching Clara's hand tightly. "Now we breathe," she breathed back, fighting to keep her voice calm even as her mind raced through every possible escape route. "Lucas, do you still have that shard?" "Yeah." The boy's small hands patted down through his pockets, searching. Clara felt pride at his resolve. "Good. We fight if we have to." She looked from one boy to the other, feeling their belief swell around her. Then, the heavy footsteps grew louder, splashing through the stream outside. Clara's heart sank, but she gazed at the chief, his fierce eyes penetrating through the shadows. "If it comes to it, protect the boys," she said fiercely, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on them. "I won't let them take anyone." Raoul appeared in a flash of silhouette, bolstered at the mouth of the cave. "We're cornered," he exclaimed, urgency threading through his words. "They're regrouping." Clara could feel panic clawing up her throat. If they were to fight, it had to be now. "Then let us show them what we are," she whispered fiercely, determination igniting a fire in her belly. But she wouldn't dare lose hope. Clara squeezed the boys' hands, feeling their trust surge through her. This was at the moment they would step from the darkness and forge their own path. Finally, a scream of rage and desperation erupted from outside, forcing Clara's resolve into overdrive. "Together!" she shouted, determination bursting forth. "We'll take them down, no matter what." As the cave filled with a response of frantic voices from outside, the beating of hearts and the rustle of movement sent adrenaline surging. In the dark, Clara could hear breaths shared, tension crackling like static before a storm. And then the first foot breached the threshold, dark silhouettes appearing against the glint of moonlight. Clara raised her chin, fueled by the raw urgency that there was no turning back now. The fight for their lives had begun, and she was ready to stand her ground, break the cycle, and protect what mattered most: love and freedom. When the dust settled, they would emerge from this night unbroken, undeniably together. She pressed forward, feeling the resonance of hope swell within her, binding them firmly against the chaos of their past. Whatever happened, she would make sure to fight for the dawn ahead. This was her moment, and she would seize it with everything she had. And somewhere in the darkness, freedom folded its wings, ready to take flight. It was time for a new beginning. Don't miss out on the next exclusive story. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss a single word. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm and keep these adventures alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Clara's wild journey, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who are craving thrill and excitement. This is the moment to show your support.